For years I've watched people struggle with this idea of discipline, and they come to me with the same story every time. Jim, I just can't stay disciplined. I start strong, then I fall off. I try my best, but I can't seem to stick with anything. And I listen, and I nod, and I smile, because I understand the frustration. I've been there myself. But let me tell you something I learned early in my journey, something that changed everything for me. People don't fail because they lack discipline. They fail because they lack a plan. Discipline is not some mystical force reserved for the chosen few. Discipline is simply doing what the plan says. But that, my friend, is exactly the problem. Most people don't have a plan. They have wishes, they have intentions, they have hopes. They have emotional bursts of motivation that last about 48 hours, then disappear just as quickly as they arrived. A plan, on the other hand, is stable. A plan is rational. A plan tells you what to do even when you don't feel like doing it. And that's the secret the successful understand. Discipline is nothing more than loyalty to a well-designed plan. You see, if you wake up every morning hoping to feel disciplined, you're already at a disadvantage because feelings are shaky ground to build a life on. But a plan is solid. A plan says, here is what you will do. Here is when you will do it. Here is the direction you've chosen. And here is the price you're willing to pay. Discipline becomes easier when the plan becomes clearer. So today, we're going to walk through the 5 rules that turn ordinary people into consistent performers. These rules are simple, they are practical, and if you apply them, they will transform your consistency, your confidence, and your entire direction in life. But before we begin, I want you to remember the central idea of this lesson. You don't need more discipline, you need a better plan. And once the plan is built, your job becomes simple. Follow it. Not perfectly, not heroically, but consistently. Because consistency, not intensity, is the great separator between those who drift and those who rise. Now, with that foundation in place, let's take the next step and examine why discipline feels so hard in the first place and why so many people lose the battle before the day even starts. Now let's talk about something every one of us faces. Something that quietly sabotages more plans, more dreams, more good intentions than anything else I've ever seen. The trap of feelings. If you've ever wondered why discipline feels like such a battle, it's because most people are trying to build a disciplined life on an emotional foundation. And that simply won't work. Your feelings are magnificent, but let me tell you the truth. They are not reliable. They're like the wind. They shift, they swirl, they come and go without warning. One morning you wake up ready to conquer the world, and by afternoon you're ready to surrender it. And if your entire plan depends on how you feel at any given moment, you can imagine the kind of inconsistency that creates. People say to me, Jim, I struggle with discipline. No, you struggle with how often you let your feelings vote. Your feelings want comfort. Your feelings want ease. Your feelings want to negotiate. They say, not today, or let's start tomorrow, or you deserve a break. Have you ever noticed that? There's always a generous supply of excuses available when feelings are in charge. And if you allow feelings to make your decisions, you end up living a life of emotional impulses instead of intentional progress. I learned long ago that you don't wait to feel ready. If you do, you'll spend your whole life waiting. The amateurs wait for motivation before they act. The professionals act until motivation arrives. That's the difference. Professionals understand that action produces emotion far more reliably than emotion produces action. You start, then the energy comes, you begin, and the motivation follows. It's like lighting a fire. If you wait for warmth before striking the match, you'll freeze. You strike the match first, and the warmth comes after. Now, I'm not saying feelings are the enemy. They're part of life, part of being human. But here's the key. Feelings can have a voice, but they cannot have a vote. They can ride in the car, but they can't grab the steering wheel. If you want to build a life of consistency, you must accept this truth. You cannot follow your feelings and follow your plan at the same time. One will always overrule the other. And the question is, which one do you want determining the direction of your life? Because every successful person I've met, not some, but everyone understands this. Feelings come and go, but the plan remains. So, If discipline feels hard, it's not because something is wrong with you. It's because your plan isn't strong enough yet to stand above your emotions. And that's what we're going to fix. But before we build the system, before we start making rules, we must lay the foundation, the kind of foundation feelings cannot shake. And that brings us to the next part of our lesson, the power of the written plan. Now, let me give you the foundation, because without this, everything else becomes guesswork. The foundation, my friend, is very simple. Your plan must be written. Not imagined, not hoped for, not carried in your mind like a loose idea, but written on paper, in ink, where you can see it, read it, review it, and measure yourself against it. Your mind is a marvelous gift, but it is not a filing cabinet. It forgets, it wanders, it negotiates, it talks you into things and out of things. Your mind will say you'll remember, but it rarely does. A written plan, on the other hand, is like a contract, an agreement between the person you are today and the person you want to become tomorrow. You see, when you write something down, it becomes real, it becomes official, it becomes a declaration, and declarations have power. A written plan doesn't waver. It doesn't care if you're tired. It doesn't care if you're busy. It doesn't care if you don't feel like it. The written plan simply says, this is what you said you would do, and here is the time you said you would do it. A written plan gives direction to the day, structure to the week, and meaning to the month. Without it, you drift. With it, you advance. I used to tell people, don't trust your memory will fail you. But your plan, if you design it well, it will not fail. It brings clarity. And clarity is one of the greatest gifts you can give your life. When you know exactly what to do and exactly when to do it, you eliminate half the battle. Most people lose not because they're weak, but because they're vague. I should exercise more. I should read more. I should work on my business. That's not a plan, that's a wish list. And let me tell you, wishes don't produce results. Plans do. Your plan should answer 3 simple questions. What will I do? When will I do it? For how long will I do it? If your plan can answer those 3 questions, you're already ahead of most. Don't leave your growth to chance. Don't leave your progress to a mood swing. If you want to live intentionally, you must plan intentionally. And once that plan is written, once it's clear, once it's precise, then the magic can begin. Because now you're not chasing discipline. You're following instructions. Your instructions designed by your highest self. And that brings us to the next step. Once your plan is written, how do you begin? How do you turn a simple plan into a life-changing force? You start with something small, something so simple you can keep it every day, no matter what. And that leads us right into the first rule of the system. Now that your plan is written, let's talk about the very first rule. And it's one that surprises a lot of people because they expect something dramatic, something heroic, something that requires tremendous strength. But the truth is far simpler. Start with 1 promise you can keep every single day. Not 10 promises, not 20, not a complete overhaul of your life by Monday morning, just 1. You see, most people fail not because they're incapable, but because they try to lift too much too soon. They take the enthusiasm of a new beginning and attempt to transform their entire life in 1 grand gesture. But enthusiasm fades, reality arrives, feelings fluctuate, and suddenly that mountain they tried to climb in one day becomes the excuse they use to quit altogether. The secret isn't to start big. The secret is to start certain, to choose 1 action so simple that you can perform it even on your worst day. Something you can do when you're tired, when you're stressed, when you're distracted, when you're unmotivated. Because if your consistency depends on your best days, you will never build momentum. You build momentum by winning your worst days, by keeping a promise even when everything in you wants to postpone it. Maybe the promise is reading 5 pages, not a chapter 5 pages. Maybe the promise is a 10-minute walk, not a marathon 10 minutes. Maybe the promise is writing for 3 minutes, or cleaning 1 drawer, or practicing a skill for 5 minutes. The size of the action doesn't matter. What matters is that it is non-negotiable. What matters is that you can say at the end of the day, I kept my promise. That sentence, spoken day after day, becomes the seed of immense self-belief. You see, the real transformation isn't in the reading or the walking or the practicing. The real transformation is in the message you send to yourself. I can rely on me. That is the foundation of all discipline, all confidence, all achievement. When you keep that one daily promise, you're not just completing a task, you're building identity. You're becoming the kind of person who follows through. And once you become that kind of person, every dream in your life becomes more achievable because the greatest obstacle, self-doubt, begins to dissolve. Start with one promise and keep it. Not almost, not usually, every day. If you want consistency, don't try to be extraordinary on day one. Try to be reliable. Extraordinary comes later, after reliability has had time to compound. And it will compound. Consistency multiplies. But it begins with one simple promise: honored daily, protected fiercely, valued highly. Now, once you've chosen that promise, once you're ready to honor it every day, there's something crucial you must understand. Your plan cannot be vague. It cannot depend on how you feel. It must be specific, structured, clear, and that leads us to the second rule. Now let's move to the second rule, one that separates the achievers from the wishers, the consistent from the inconsistent, the committed from the hopeful. Your plan must be specific, not emotional. Vague plans breed vague action, and vague action produces vague results. Most people don't fail because they lack desire. They fail because their plan is so flexible that it collapses the moment life applies a little pressure. You see, an emotional plan sounds like this. I'll exercise when I have time. I'll study when I feel motivated. I'll work on my goals when things calm down. But here's the truth. Life will never calm down long enough for that plan to work. And waiting for motivation is like waiting for lightning. You don't know when it's coming, and you certainly can't depend on it. That's why the amateurs drift. Their plans depend entirely on how they feel. But the successful, the professionals, the disciplined, they operate by specific plans. Specificity gives structure. Specificity eliminates debate. Specificity protects you from the emotional negotiations that happen inside your head. When your plan is specific, it doesn't ask for your opinion. It doesn't ask if you're in the mood. It simply says, it's time. Not I'll work out more, but at 7 a.m., I walk for 20 minutes. Not I should read tonight, but at 8:30 p.m., I read 10 pages. Not I'll try to save money, but every Friday, I transfer $25 to my savings. Specificity closes the door on negotiation. Emotion opens the door wide. And remember, your feelings live for negotiation. They'll say, maybe later, not today, start fresh tomorrow. But a specific plan says now. And now is the only time progress can happen. When your plan is specific, something powerful occurs. The burden on your willpower decreases. Willpower is a limited resource, but clarity is not. A clear, specific plan removes the indecision, and indecision is one of the greatest thieves of discipline. It drains energy. It creates friction. It invites excuses. But when your plan is precise, you wake up in the morning and you already know the answer. You know what to do, when to do it, and for how long. All that remains is to honor the schedule. One of the best gifts you can give yourself is a plan that is so clear you don't have to think, you simply follow. You created it when you were thinking, logically, calmly, wisely. And now your job is to follow it when your emotions aren't as wise, when your energy isn't as high, when your mood isn't as optimistic. That's how you train discipline. That's how you strengthen your character. That's how consistency becomes automatic instead of exhausting. But even a specific plan can crumble in the wrong environment. If you want your plan to stand, if you want your consistency to last, you must arrange the world around you to support it. And that brings us to our next rule, the one most people ignore, but the successful rely on heavily. Now, let me share with you one of the most overlooked principles of discipline, a principle that can multiply your consistency faster than almost anything else. Your environment must support your plan. I learned years ago that environment is stronger than willpower. Environment will defeat your intentions if it works against you, and it will strengthen your intentions if it works for you. Too many people blame themselves for inconsistency when the real culprit is the world they've arranged around them. Tell me, how can you stick to a plan to eat healthy when your kitchen is stocked with every temptation you swore you'd avoid? How can you follow a reading plan when your television, your phone, and your distractions are all within arm's reach? How can you remain focused on growth when the people around you spend their time complaining, drifting, and doubting? Your environment is not neutral. It is shaping you every minute. The question is not whether your environment influences you. The question is whether you've designed it to influence you in the right direction. You see, one of the greatest misunderstandings about discipline is the belief that you must be strong every day. But strength isn't the goal. Design is the goal. Create an environment where success is easy and failure is inconvenient. Lay your workout clothes out the night before so the morning presents you with a simple decision. Place your book where your phone used to sit so the choice to read becomes the natural one. Clean your workspace so productivity feels inviting, not overwhelming. Remove temptations. Reduce friction. And set your surroundings to whisper, do the right thing. And let me tell you something important. There is no virtue in fighting unnecessary battles. You don't earn extra points for making your life harder than it needs to be. The strongest people are not the ones who rely solely on willpower. They are the ones who build environments that protect their goals. They design systems that encourage action. They remove obstacles before obstacles remove them from their plan. If you associate with people who live casually, you will adopt their pace. If you spend time with people who complain, you will pick up their language. If you surround yourself with people who drift, you will eventually drift along with them. But if you spend time with people who plan, who commit, who grow, your standards will rise. Your habits will rise. Your entire life will rise, often without effort. Because environment is always teaching, always nudging, always shaping. A disciplined life is not built on willpower alone. It's built on structure. It's built on the decisions you make before the moment of weakness arrives. If your environment supports your plan remains strong. If your environment contradicts your plan becomes fragile. So ask yourself, does your environment hold you back or does it hold you up? Does it remind you of the person you were or the person you're becoming? Because once the environment is set, once the world around you is aligned with what you want, you gain an enormous advantage. Consistency becomes the natural choice rather than the heroic one. And now that we've set the foundation and built our surroundings, we're ready for the next rule, one that transforms action into progress and progress into confidence. Now that your plan is clear and your environment supports it, let me give you the next rule. One of the most important habits you will ever build: track your actions every day. Not perfectly, not obsessively, just honestly. You see, human beings are storytellers by nature, and the first person we try to convince is ourselves. If you don't track your progress, your mind will tell you a very comforting story, you're doing fine. But the truth is, you don't need comforting, you need clarity. And clarity comes from tracking. It doesn't need to be complicated. A notebook, a calendar, a sheet of paper with boxes. Each day ask one simple question. Did I keep my promise today? Yes or no? That's it. No drama, no speeches, no emotional interpretation, just an honest accounting. That simple check mark day after day becomes what I call your self-trust ledger. Every time you keep your promise, you make a deposit. Every time you skip it, you make a withdrawal. And your life is built on the balance of that account. When your self-trust account is in the positive, you carry yourself differently. You speak differently. You attempt bigger goals because you trust the person you see in the mirror. You say, if I commit to it, I will follow through. That belief is worth more than gold. But when the account is overdrawn, when you keep breaking promises to yourself, you walk through life with doubt sitting on your shoulder. You start saying things like, I never stick to anything, or I don't have discipline, or I always quit. And the tragedy is this: you're not lacking ability. You're lacking evidence of your own reliability. That's what tracking fixes. It shows you the truth. It shows you the pattern, and it gives you the power to change the pattern. Now, let me tell you something crucial. You don't need perfect consistency to transform your life. You need honest consistency. You're not aiming for 100%. You're aiming for patterns, patterns of showing up, patterns of keeping promises, patterns of progress. Perfection is a myth. Honesty is a strategy. Some days you'll check the box gladly. Some days you'll check it reluctantly. Some days you might miss it entirely. But the point isn't to be perfect. The point is to stay aware. Awareness is the beginning of change. Tracking is your daily reminder that you're not leaving your life to chance. You're shaping it one check mark at a time. When you track daily, you begin to see something remarkable. Consistency compounds. Yesterday's effort makes today easier. Today's effort makes tomorrow more possible. And soon, your little check marks turn into streaks, and those streaks turn into momentum. And momentum, once it arrives, is one of the greatest allies you'll ever have. So remember, track your promise each day. Track it with honesty, with simplicity, with clarity. Because the real gift of tracking is not the record, it's the relationship you build with yourself through that record. And that relationship, strong, reliable, trustworthy, is the foundation of the next rule. The rule where discipline turns into identity and identity turns into destiny. Now we arrive at the heart of the entire system. Everything we've discussed, the written plan, the daily promise, the specific schedule, the supportive environment, the honest tracking, all of it serves one ultimate purpose: to shape your identity. Because let me tell you something I discovered long ago. You will always behave in alignment with the person you believe yourself to be, not the person you hope to be, not the person you pretend to be. The person you truly believe you are. Identity is the strongest force in human psychology. A person who believes they are inconsistent will find a way to be inconsistent even with a perfect plan. A person who believes they always quit will quit, even with strong support. But a person who believes I keep my promises becomes reliable. A person who believes I follow my plan becomes consistent. A person who believes I do what I say becomes unstoppable. So how do we change identity? Not by affirmations alone, not by declarations, not by wishing. You change identity the same way you change your bank account, one deposit at a time. Every time you keep a promise, you cast a vote for the person you want to become. Every time you follow your plan despite your feelings, you reinforce a new belief. Every check mark you track becomes evidence that you are, in fact, becoming the kind of person who can be trusted. This is why the first daily promise matters so much. It's not about the habit itself. It's about proving something to yourself. And once that inner proof builds, once it accumulates, once it compounds, something remarkable happens. You stop trying to be disciplined and you simply are disciplined. You stop trying to be consistent and you simply are consistent. You stop negotiating with yourself because the negotiation's over. You've become the kind of person who honors agreements. Identity is not built in a day, but it is built daily. And if you continue to keep your promises, continue to respect your plan, continue to strengthen your environment and track your actions, you will feel a shift inside, a quiet shift, a powerful one. You'll catch yourself saying things like, "This is just what I do," or "This is who I am now." And that statement, that identity, is what will carry you through seasons when motivation is low. When life becomes difficult, when circumstances change, a strong identity outlives every challenge. A weak identity collapses at the first sign of discomfort. That's why we must build the identity first, because when you truly believe you are a person who follows through, even your hardest days become manageable. You don't rely on motivation. You don't rely on willpower. You rely on who you are. And here's the beautiful part. Once identity shifts, consistency becomes natural. It becomes second nature. It becomes part of your rhythm. And when consistency becomes part of your rhythm, your future opens up. Opportunities open up. Your confidence rises. Your standards rise. Your results rise. Because the world responds not to what you want, but to who you are. And now that we've built the system from the inside out, plan, habits, tracking, identity, we're ready for the final step, wrapping it all together into a simple, beautiful way forward. And now, my friend, as we bring this lesson to a close, let me tell you something simple and beautiful. Your life can change much faster than you think once your plan is stronger than your feelings. People spend years battling themselves, trying to manufacture more discipline, when the truth is they don't need to become stronger, they just need to become clearer. They don't need a harsh new attitude, they need a well-designed plan. They don't need motivation, they need direction. And when direction is clear, discipline becomes a natural companion. Remember what we uncovered today. You don't lack discipline, you lack a plan. Not a vague idea, not a hope, not a wish, a plan, a written plan, a simple plan, a plan you can follow even on your worst days. Start with one daily promise. 1. Make your plan specific so it cannot argue with you. Design your environment so it carries you instead of fighting you. Track your progress honestly, because honesty builds awareness and awareness builds change. And finally, build your identity one promise at a time, one check mark at a time, one small victory at a time, until you become a person who does what they say without negotiation and without excuse. Because let me tell you something extraordinary. Once you become that person, once you trust yourself, everything in your life becomes easier. Your goals become clearer. Your habits become lighter. Your dreams become possible. Not because the world changed, but because you did. A life of consistency isn't built in bursts. It's built in patterns. Patterns become habits. Habits become character, and character becomes destiny. And destiny is not something you find. It's something you design. You design it with your decisions. You design it with your discipline. You design it with your plan. So the question now is simple. Will you continue hoping for more discipline, or will you finally create the plan that discipline can follow? Because the moment you choose design over impulse, the moment you choose clarity over chaos, the moment you choose to keep that first promise to yourself, that's the moment your life begins to shift. Quietly, steadily, powerfully. And if you stay with it, if you stay loyal to your daily plan, consistency will become your companion, discipline will become your trademark, and achievement will become your new normal. Remember, start small, stay consistent, trust yourself, and build the plan that builds your future. That's the beautiful way forward. And it begins today with one simple promise you keep.